let us just now switch gears and move back to the lakeside city of Kisumu. And this morning, on the Western Spectrum, we want to look at women empowerment at the grassroots, like you've rightly mentioned. And straight away, I have with me a very distinguished guest here, right in studio. One is Mr. Albert Wandago, who is actually a film director and also a communications expert, and consultant rather. And the other guest is Ms. Betty Okero, who is a gender rights defender and also a leader in the civil society space. My name is Wycliffe Okech, and just right on, let us kick it off and delve deep into what empowering women at the grassroots actually mean. Good morning, Betty.
Good morning, Betty.
Albert.
Good morning.
How is the lakeside city this morning?
I think one would say we're getting back to a grip of what has happened. I mean, following what happened in Homa Bay, which became an issue. But I think at this point, there's a lot of deep reflection that's going on at individual level, at community level, which I think is a good thing because it gives us an opportunity to actually talk about the problems and the challenges that we're facing as community members within this region.
Albert, how is the
Well, exciting. A lot of activity politically.
We are in that season.
But also good for business, depending on which side of the divide you are.
Very.
Yeah.
And welcome to this show. And this is the Western Spectrum. And like we already know, we want to talk about the space of women. I mean, empowering women at the grassroots level. When we talk about the grassroots, I mean, it is right where we are from the national bit of it, and now we cascade it down to the grassroots. What does empowerment at the grassroots actually mean? And just to kick us off this morning, we've heard these connotations and sentiments from the leaders, and also it's just a public discourse where the youth, persons with disabilities, and also women are referred to as vulnerable populations or other marginalized populations. Do you believe that the women or this kind of populations are still marginalized and underrepresented in whatever way?
Betty?
Yes, I think we have to look at marginalization within the context of social, economic, and political. And then you ask yourself, how often do you see the same groups you're talking about at the center of whether it's discussions, at the center of development, at the center of the planning that's taking place, and even at the center of beneficiaries. How easy is it for them to be able to access information? How easy is it for them to be able to maximize without having to go through loops and hoops? How have we made it accessible for them, taking into consideration the sort of systems or structures that they come from? You know, the whole issue around vulnerability has got to be looked at from whether it is education, whether it's having the resources. Sometimes that vulnerability, you know, if you look at it within a political context, it's also where you come from and how that is. And now if you start breaking it down and going to persons with disability, then those are even more, you start seeing the nuances that are there. And I'll give you an example. You know, when we talk about AGPO, and then you say that we have opened it up. Yes, you've opened it up, but how accessible is opening up? How is it, do they understand the languages? When you're saying that people have to register, how easy is it to register? What sort of resources are required? Do they understand the language? Do they know and have the social contact so that even after they've done the work, how easy is it for them to be able to get paid? You know, and when you start looking at all those different levels that entail, you know, engaging in these conversations around economic empowerment, you start finding that there are so many structural barriers that hinder them. Right. So that vulnerability is important because it sort of starts shaping how we design some of these programs with those factors in mind.
Very well. What I'm taking from your from your position is that the women, the youth, and these populations, they're still marginalized and underrepresented. That is what I'm getting from your statement.
Yes, and it comes from the fact that even at the time when we're talking about these programs, we are not listening to them. And I think that's the whole issue around what film does. the journey and the storytelling and the experiences or lived realities of these people, of the people we're talking about, are so important because they help to shape how you make sure that we do not continue to make them vulnerable.
All right. When you look at this morning, the empowerment of women at the grassroots level, actually, we want to contextualize it within art, within storytelling, through film. And Mr. Albert, as a veteran filmmaker and also a consultant when it comes to storytelling through art, I want to pose the same question to you. These populations that I've mentioned, the three cadres, do you still believe today are they still underrepresented and marginalized, especially the women?
Exactly. I still feel so. And actually, because they are vulnerable, they are still vulnerable. That's where we come in as communicators to see or to help any initiatives that helps them get out of that cocoon of, being vulnerable.
Sure.
And you see, because there are reasons why. So when you look at those, what's being done or what should be done, we use film sort of to sensitize. For instance, what we are doing with the film this coming weekend, we are using a film in a forum that tries to help women to understand how to do business in a more productive way. Okay, a lot of people, and women included, they go into business without actually knowing the basic requirements that you need to have in terms of information, structure, before they enter business. Some people just wake up, maybe they're given a little money by their husbands or brothers or sisters, or they get some money of their own, and then they say, I also want to open a shop. They have no idea, what it means actually to run that shop. So taking them through that, so showing them that, it is possible to do it, but do it properly. Sure. Okay? And then, there are those who probably want to do business, but they're scared. Okay? They're wondering, can I really make it? So through a film like the one we have, that film is about a woman who is very successful, in business. And so using the power of the picture, especially the moving picture, they can see that this is actually possible. Yeah.
Towards the end of this conversation, will give us the details as to where the screening of this film will take place. But for now, give us just a synopsis of it. In brief, what exactly does this film entail?
This film entails, like I said, the central character is a woman, very successful in business. She has several businesses under her cap. Right here in Kisumu, she has one little boy, but she's not married. But she's running a successful business enterprise, and she lives well. And actually, that's why the film is titled Odiero. And for those who know Kijaluo, we normally refer to such people as Odiero because they've made it. So anybody who's made it is sometimes referred to as Odiero. So the title of the film is Odiero. Yes.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So this lady is...
Yeah.
And she runs a business. She has a child. She's not married. No. Yes. Betty, is that reflective of the actual situation on the ground? When I talk of the ground or the grassroots, I'm talking about the rural parts. Think of the Kisumu's rural parts. Think of Nyalenda. Think of Kibos going the other way, and just beyond Kisumu at the grassroots level. These women who, I could call them single parents. What the synopsis that Albert has given, is it reflective of the actual situation on the ground?
Well, first of all, we need to acknowledge that Kisumu, the largest employer of Kisumu is the informal sector.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So we have so many more people, whether it's women, young people, generally quite a large population, derive their income from the informal sector.
Sure.
Now, if you look at the informal sector and you see how it operates, there are quite a number of challenges, even for those women at the local level. I think if you do recall, COVID and what COVID did in terms of destroying people's livelihood, the majority of those people who were affected the most were women, single women, and young people. Because for them, their operations are done out in the open. It's an informal space. It could be by the roadside, on the bus stop. Very few of them have got a structure that they can access. And the reason why that is not available is because the development of the government plans has not actually seen them, right? So that even when we build, the amount of money we're demanding for payment in terms of rates, monthly rents, are so much more than what they're actually able to generate, because their working capital is also very limited. And so they're already completely shut out of that, one would say, organized way in which people operate, where you open the doors and where you close your doors. So then it's on the streets. And on the streets, there are also other challenges that you have to face, because we want to make sure that there is no trade in the streets. So we will look for them, and what we will do, we will grab them off the streets. And I remember there was this thing where there was this woman one time who was being dragged on the road. Remember that? I mean, those are the sort of challenges that they would face. Or you'll find somebody with her basket of goods, which is just less than sometimes 500, and you will grab it because she does not have a license and she's not meant to operate. So that's the end of her business. So those are the sort of people we're talking about who form the majority of the working women, if we're going to call it that.
And those that you mentioned, don't they cut across even to their male counterparts when it comes to informal settlement, informal sector players in terms of small businesses? Those challenges, don't they cut across even to men?
They do. But then we cannot take away the fact that the majority of the people involved in that informal trade are mostly women and young girls and young boys as well. You know, there's no denying that. But then you have to deal with issues around safety and security, so that even when you're trading, it will be difficult for women to trade beyond a certain time because there's no light. But that is possible perhaps for men, because you're also dealing with some of those uncomfortable situation of you being a female, some of the things that you're going to confront if you're busy working in a place where you know you're not secure. The other issue, of course, is that even where they are operating in places that are demarcated, they cannot, not everybody has access to those spaces because they've been taken up by others who then subcontract those spaces. So we don't have demarcated spaces that are deliberate and intentional to protect those who we are calling vulnerable. We assume that, you know, survival for the fittest. And we know what that means. You know, not all of them can survive. There are others who will then survive through going through brokers or others who then make it more difficult because they end up paying even much, much more to secure that particular place. Then there is the issue around when you start operating. And like those people with shops, you can operate from morning to night. For those ones, there are specific timelines that you can operate. And when you start seeing the sort of women we are seeing involved in these businesses, most of them are operating right next to where their residential houses are. And there's a whole issue around, I have to be on the streets selling, but I also have to be at the home taking care of all their other, you know, duties and responsibility. So I think for me, as a country or as a government, or even just in Kisumu, when we are starting to talk about empowering women at the grassroots, we have to take into consideration those structural barriers that are already present that make it difficult, so that even when they are trading, they still have to get rid of money that they do not want to because they have to pay somebody to allow them. So, you know, sort of calling it a bribe, or one would say it's corruption. But if the system is not working for you, Kenyans survive by then releasing a little of their income to ensure that they're able to survive. And that for me is a challenge because it keeps depleting the monies that they have. But it also means that they lose trust, confidence in the government that is supposed to be able to support them.
We want to see ways through which government actually can come through for this cadre of Kenyans so that they can also feel empowered economically and other aspects. But Albert, the film Odiero, I want to know what triggered you actually to produce such a movie and such a film, and why did you just coin it around the women when it comes to empowerment?
Actually, okay, one is that living here in Kisumu for now about just over 10 years, originally I was operating from Nairobi. I looked at women in you know, the whole area about women, whether it is in business, whether it is in private sector. And as she says, the majority in this, in the working space, or in the lower working space, especially, are women.
Right.
Then I looked at the few who are up, you might say, on the upper echelons of society in Kisumu. I saw quite a number of women driving around in very huge cars. You know, the kind of cars that you see with the politicians, the V8s.
The SUVs.
Yeah.
Sports car.
Living quite largely. So I try to see how can we encourage these lower ones also maybe to get up there. And I thought doing a film that shows these women who have made it, so to speak, to these others so that they can aspire, okay? Because, you see, success is not just trying to do something, but you have to look at somebody who has done it, okay? At least that's what I believe. So when you say, I'm seeing this woman, she's got this company and that company, she drives a good car, she lives up in Riyadh, you know? Me, I'm still here in Yalenda, you know? I think it's you might look at it in terms of, okay, them, they are lucky, but if you want to get there, if you see such a woman and you are also really trying to work hard somewhere, it gives you hope that you could also be there.
Sure.
And that's really, for me, the trigger. So I said, let's do something about this. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And now this is empowering the women, especially those at the grassroots, through film. And in your opinion, does film actually create that empowerment? Tell me, where does storytelling through film stops and now for the real empowerment to begin?
Well, the real empowerment begins when, and that's why this film is only going to be part of the forum.
Sure.
The real empowerment begins now when they have achieved, you know, the knowledge, okay?
Oh, yeah.
The know-how, the information, because there's lack of information in the way things are done in terms of business. So in this forum, we're going to have, you know, people who are versed in what you call financial literacy and business management, who will take them through, you know, those kind of information that they need. The film will just show that it is possible, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Now the information they'll get is actually now that will trigger the real empowerment. So they'll have the information, they will have seen it is possible, and then they can do it.
All right.
Yeah.
Betty, I see you nodding. Does that mean, do you agree with Mr. Albert when he says that film actually has that ability to create awareness and also, I mean, to create a real impact in terms of empowerment beyond making, creating awareness? Nice.
Yes, it does. Because the film then is documenting somebody's journey of success.
And real life success.
And it's not just talking about where they are now, but it's talking about where they have come from. And when you talk about that whole story, it also talks about the challenges, the gaps, you know, the hopes and loops that they had to pass. And the questions we should interrogate is whether all those challenges that they went through, were they necessary? Is there a way in which it would have been easier? And we start then asking ourselves, what policies exist that hinder that upward mobility? Wherever you are, what policies exist that make it difficult for you to be able to attain the success that you're looking for? And then you start sort of trying to shape how you design our programs to make sure that we use that as a case study to make it easier for more people to go through that door. And so storytelling is important. because storytelling is almost like an evaluation of what you have put down, and then looking at it through the eyes of those who are interacting with those programs that you have placed, and then asking yourself, okay, I think there's a problem here. What is it that I need to do to be able to change? Then you ask yourself, and how do I change it so that it's not just this level, but there are so many other, because we're saying women are not homogeneous, but that there are other women as well who want to get into this income bracket, who want to get into that business. How do we make sure that they can access it at whatever level or status that they're at? And that is important, because sometimes we design programs and assume that we're all the same. So when we are talking about vulnerability, we then start saying, okay, she's a woman, but she's widowed. She's a woman, she's widowed, she's HIV positive. She's a woman, she's widowed, she has got no children. She's a woman, she's widowed, and she has no assets. Because now you start looking at the social issues that are hindering her mobility.
Right.
And you then start saying, and that's why we have things like affirmative programs, affirmative action programs. The idea behind that was to make it easy and accessible for those women who had slipped through the cracks, to be able to start their journey and their path of empowerment. But then if the affirmative action program is also blind and just says, 30% for women, then we're back again to the whole issue. Who are these 30% for women? What do they look like?
Right.
Then you start breaking down the different, categories. Woman with disability. And what sort of disability are we also talking about? When you're saying that you've got to go to AGPO and you're looking at people who are blind, who want to still do business, how do they access it?
Right.
What sort of systems do we put in place to make sure that it is available and accessible to all in their different shades and stripes and everything?
Yes. Still on that bit, before we come back to Albert. You've been in this space of the civil society or the civil action for quite some time, and you've got various mechanisms to engage the public, to scrutinize government policies, and also to engage them in these conversations that actually deal with socio-economic development within the society. Does that, from what you take from the synopsis that Albert gave us, does that make you believe? Do you believe the power of film and art in to create a real empowerment?
Yes, because you're actually documenting people's experiences.
Sure.
You're talking to people and they're telling you, they're giving you a response on how the work or the policies that you've put in place, how they're interacting with them, and whether it is working for them or it isn't. So storytelling is important.
Sure.
Storytelling is actually an opportunity to listen to people, to hear what they're saying. And as a policymaker, it also is an opportunity for you to reflect on whether what you have put in place is actually working or not, and to be able to change. If the idea behind the programs that are put in place is to expand opportunity and incomes at household level, then storytelling helps you to evaluate the extent to which those programs are successful or not. Yes.
But I want to know if, because here we are looking at more ways actually to empower women, especially those at the grassroots level, and women themselves. Do they embrace art? When we talk about film, do they embrace this sort of art, film, when we talk about a real empowerment?
They do. The only unfortunate thing is that we don't have enough. They don't have enough access to things like film. But definitely when they get the access, they embrace fully. And because see, film, unlike other sources of information, it tends to show like real life. You see, when somebody sees a character there, and actually it's alive. Okay, it's the way we are talking now. We are not AI. We are here in the studio, and that's how a film also works. So they relate very well. The problem is that so far we don't have enough structures, to allow a film like this one to go, broadly into the society.
Yeah.
So you find, like, take for instance in Kisumu City, we have only one cinema, which is very expensive to go into, and then we don't have really a structure that takes films around. So like the opportunity we're going to have this weekend is one in many.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but in terms of appreciation, yes, they do, and the response is always very powerful.
But let's not forget. We are also very expressive as Africans.
Yeah.
So you've got the film, but then look at what we're doing with theatre. The theatre that you see is, this is captured visually, but the one that is staged, they're usually just telling stories. The songs that we sing, they're all telling stories. So we have to listen to what people are saying, whether it is on stage. Exactly. There's always a story they're trying to tell you. But perhaps it's for us to then start appreciating that we communicate in different ways, and film is one way of doing that. And we've got film that's captured visually, but we've got film where you just have people doing their skits everywhere. That's still a form of expression, and it's a form of storytelling. We usually say, especially if you see how we capture it, we say we need an interlude, so that we can sort of,
digest.
Exactly, we need a break. So we need a bit of therapy, And so we look at it and we say it's about fun and laughter and all. But beyond that, what they're also trying to tell you in that story is so important, which I think most times we miss out completely.
But you mentioned something to do with women not having access to art and film. What exactly do you mean?
Well, what I mean is that we don't have a good number of places where you can actually go and see film regularly. Okay, so we only have occasions like this. We're going to have once in a while. You have some open air screening. So access, regular access, is a bit lacking. That's what I mean. But to come back to what she was saying, the film normally has a story, and in the story there are many underlying stories within that film. And so when people and women look at that, they see themselves, in fact, when they watch, sometimes they say, oh, that one is like so and so, that one is like my neighbor, or something like that. So they see themselves in the film, and that connection, really creates a lot of awareness.
Of accessibility. Who bears the responsibility? Who should actually ensure people have access to these art pieces that actually reflect the real situation at the ground and the needful actions? Who bears the responsibility, Albert?
Well, generally it's government, because all over the world it is government that creates the conducive atmosphere to have such structures in place. Of course, the private sector come in, but they only come in when they know they can make money, you see? And that's why it is more to the government rather than the private sector that needs to actually put some structures.
I know that deals with film. Is that the Kenya Film Commission? What should they be doing? Because should they cascade their mandate at the county level, at the grassroots level, to ensure that those people at the bottom level of the society actually also gets access to these art pieces that actually reflect the situation on the ground and the needful actions?
The Kenya Film Commission, actually, I'm a founder commissioner of that commission. It's a good institution, but it is very the funding is very limited. Again, I'm not sure they have the capability to actually put in place structures, or the wherewithal to do it. But it is a good way to start. I mean, I think that is where the whole issue, belongs. If they are given, proper funding, then they should be able to do that. I'm aware that actually they do have sometimes, occasionally, what you call mobile cinema, okay? They facilitate that, and I've seen them come here, even here to Kisumu. Yeah, and that's how far they've gone.
When you say it is largely underfunded, does that point to the long way that we have to go as a country?
Yeah, well, I mean, our government, there are certain agencies that are not as well funded as others. So I don't know sometimes how they look at the priorities, but obviously the commission and generally the media part of the system is not very well funded.
Sure. Accessibility to these art pieces that actually motivate, empower, and create awareness for these opportunities. The private sector, well, what does it, because Albert has mentioned that the private sector only comes in where there is economic viability, there is some profit to be made. What appeal would you have to the private sector in terms of injecting their input into this space?
Well, if the private sector, they operate on the premise that they're going to make a profit.
Sure.
And we're dealing with communities and women who have the potential to generate wealth, the same wealth that they're also looking to see how to tap into. If we don't tell stories about those women, despite the challenges that they are facing right now, most of them are already in business, and there's need to be able to see how we can grow that business from the little, because right now what we have is, somebody said it's a kadogo industry. Mm-hmm. And that kadogo industry remains that way because we have not been able to put in place systems that can make them grow. Mm-hmm. Or rather, systems exist, but not systems that recognize them as a key stakeholder that should be paid attention to so that they can grow. Mm-hmm. The private sector generates a lot of wealth from kadogo industry. And they do that from, go to the supermarket and look at how we package the little small things. Those little small things are targeting these same people who cannot, and when we say hand to mouth, those are people who do not do shopping at the end of the month. So they're already generating wealth from them. Now, you can imagine if they were to invest by ensuring that there is not just more resources, but also shaping the policy that makes them operate. It is one thing to say, please bring in your money. I think we want to see how the private sector is also starting to engage in policy conversation that can help to generate more wealth for this, more income. Right. More income for these people, more wealth for them, because they're looking at, profit margins as well. Mm-hmm. And if we have this collaboration between the private sector and the government, then the conversation will change. Because then private sector are able to tap into resources that sometimes the government is not able to see. Oh. Mm. If you look at the table banking approach that is now available, those women that we're talking about with working capitals of 2,000, they are always able to raise and save money. And they do that for their own groups that they are. Which means that despite the struggles and challenges, they are able to generate and save. In fact, for me, if we had more resources that were pumped in those table banking groups, without those stringent conditions that I've seen given, telling people that they have to pay I don't know how many percentages, because that in itself also destroys the businesses that women are managing. Okay. So we've got to be able to make sure that there's a balance, that the private sector also understands the target or the stakeholders or the target group they're working with, understand what structural challenges they're facing, and design programs that does not destroy what they already have. Okay. Yeah.
Just to deviate from the film aspect of empowering women, just allow me to pick your mind, Betty and Albert. When we talk about empowerment generally, the 2010 Constitution gave us opportunities because we have got some constitutional requirements when it comes to balancing the gender aspect. Yes, I want to pick your mind, Albert, starting with you. As Kenya is right now, do you believe that there are gaps that actually disconnect women from the real empowerment? What are these gaps?
Well, give credit to government first. I think now there are quite a number of strategies that the government has put in place. Example, Women Enterprise Fund, and there are several of those funds including AGPO, which she mentioned is there but have problems. So I think the problem is really the actualization of those, because they are there as policies, but in terms of working, women still have a problem engaging, those different strategies. So the issue should be to simplify, for instance, how they work, how the Women Enterprise Fund, for instance, work, how the AGPO acts, so that the women at the lower level can easily access those funds, because access to funds actually is one of the biggest bottlenecks for women in women empowerment. Right. And in fact, it's going to be a very important issue to be discussed in this forum, because that is key. If you don't have money, to put into a business, or if you cannot access money to put into a business so that you can be empowered, then you remain there.
Sure.
So there's need to open doors, and make them a little bit more softer, okay?
Sure.
Softer landing in terms of access to funds.
Right.
Because we already know that the normal banking system, is difficult enough for everybody, not just for women.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Betty?
I think it's easy to... Money is a challenge. That
Not
goes
just
without
women.
saying. Not just women, to everybody. But if you are a government and you decide that you are going to empower grassroots communities or women, youth, persons with disability with resources, but you have not secured where they're going to operate, then there's a problem. It has got to be a holistic issue. That if women are operating in open spaces and you're giving them money, then perhaps the question is, how do we make, places of operation not just available, but also accessible to them? If you look at ownership of space, tenure security is so important because it helps people to plan long term. But if today I'm here, tomorrow I'm there, the next day I'm somewhere else, even whatever money you give will not work. Because somewhere along the line, I will lose whatever it is that I'm selling, because it has been grabbed by somebody who you have put over there to say, and you're not supposed to operate there. Kisumu is now building exhibition stalls everywhere. So the county is also telling you who they think should be operating. And I have a problem with that, because then we're not looking at your constituency, looking at them and saying, who is my constituency made of?
Yeah.
So that we're not saying that everybody is going to operate in an exhibition.
Are you saying
booth.
that even as Kisumu is doing this, there's a minimal public participation?
I think that there is a grave oversight on the assumption that we are all capable of trading in this 10x4 that has got a gate.
Okay.
Because we're building it. The question is what we're building it for. If you're saying that, and I think Kisumu County actually had a cooperative department that had resources that they were giving to women at some point, 1,500 and 2,000. Now, if that is the capital you're giving the person, what does that tell you about who this person is? Will they have access to those places? I doubt it.
Okay.
So how do you do that? How do you make sure that you have got resources or available financing? But then alongside that, how do you accompany it with all the other things that are important for this person to be able to operate?
Okay.
Where is the, empowerment is about having that place, being able to sell, being able to do everything that's necessary. But then you go back and you discover there are no toilets.
Right.
There's no floodlights.
So
There's
empowerment goes beyond financial
Exactly.
support.
Of course, finance
It is
just
about
part.
dignity,
Okay.
of this person, totality. And if that is the question, then how do you start engaging with people so that they start telling you what needs to be done? How do we put up loos everywhere, and then we are outsourcing management, which is good. But then when you're outsourcing it, how do you then consider that you've got all these women and persons with disability who are also operating and may need to use that resource?
Okay.
And how is it accessible to those people as well?
All right.
Yeah.
I'm afraid we've got just a few minutes so that we can conclude this conversation. But then right now we have a conversation that is going on nationally. It is called the long-term vision. Beyond 2030, what are we looking at beyond 2030? Now that long-term development blueprint that has now been dubbed the Vision 2060 that was launched the other day by President William Ruto. When we talk about empowering women through film, and I believe that film is largely embraced by the young population. And we've been told quite a number of times that it is the young people that shape the future. That they are the future leaders and they need to take that active role in terms of shaping their own future. Mr. Albert, how do you think the young people, the women that we are talking about here, can position themselves to be part of this conversation so that they also have a voice in this long-term development vision so that they're not alienated and left behind?
My honest opinion, on that is that I think first we should do an evaluation of 2030 to see how far we've gone with that. There's nothing wrong in looking at 2060? There's nothing wrong in looking at 2060, but I think there's a serious need to evaluate 2030 before we go there, before we end up there. Or now that it's already being discussed, it should be part of that discussion. As for young people, the way I know them, the way I see them, young people don't look beyond 10 years.
Oh, yes.
They are looking at now, what can you do for them now? And they want to make money now. They want to be empowered now.
Sure.
So the talk of 2060, when you talk to them about 2060, they're like, what's that, So I don't see them engaging in the 2060 debate. I don't think so.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Just a few seconds each to send a parting shot. Betty, what message do you have to the policymakers? What message do you have to the women? I mean, when it comes to grabbing these opportunities for self-sustenance?
Listen to what people are saying. Pay attention. People are telling you that I cannot survive. Listen to them. Ask them why they're not able to survive. We can't be operating on the premise that when Kenyans are talking, we think that they're just making noise. There is, or dismissing it that it's just feelings. It isn't. Right now, people are struggling. And those vulnerable groups are struggling even more.
Sure.
But we're not listening to them. In fact, it's interesting how if we were listening to them, I don't even think we'd be talking about 2060. Not really. Because for me, Vision 2030 was supposed to take us to 2060. We were not supposed to design another 2060. We were supposed to use that to be able to catapult it. We called it different things. Vision 2030 was also our journey to Canaan, right? Vision 2030 was also at some point our journey to Singapore. Vision 2030 is about dignity. It's about humanity. It's about living as everybody else does. It's about accountability, transparency. It's about being fair. But we're not listening to Kenyans. Instead, we're dismissing them. And we dismiss them in very interesting ways. These are just noisemakers. These are just drunkards.
And that's
or these are just addicts.
What is your call to action?
My call to action is listen.
Sure.
Right now, people are telling you that they are hurting. People are telling you that they're struggling. People are telling us every single day. And some of it is visual. We are seeing businesses being shut down. We're seeing people being thrown out of homes. We're seeing people unable to go to school. Those are messages that people are sending us. And we just have to listen and ask ourselves, why are we unable to educate our children or put food on the table or be able to pay rent? Why are we unable to, secure employment for people? Yeah.
Fine.
So if we pay attention and listen, I think we'll start this journey. But as Kenyans, we're so used to talking at each other and shutting everybody down because whatever expressions they have are labeled as something else. I know I'm not supposed to say those things, but yes.
No. And Mr. Albert, we've run out of our time. But then again, just briefly, under a minute, tell us what to expect out from this film that is coming up, that you're premiering this coming weekend. What should people look out for, and where is it happening?
Actually, it's not a premiere. It's just one of the films I've done in the many years I've been doing film. So what's going to happen? The event is on the 29th of this month, which is next Saturday, at 2 o'clock in the Mama Grace Onyango Hall, which is commonly known as the Social Hall here in Kisumu. So it is going to be what we are calling it a forum, okay, for empowerment of women and girls and youth. Okay. So what's going to happen is that from 2 o'clock we'll show the film, and then after the film we enter into the discussions on different issues on how to empower the various sectors of our society into uplifting them.
All right. Yeah. The discussions will actually, I believe, will center greatly on how to empower the young people. Actually, when we talk about women are not just the grown-ups. We also have the young girls actually who have a space in the society and have a role to play in shaping their own future. I believe this has been an impactful discussion with my distinguished guest here, Mr. Albert Wandago, film director and maker and communications expert and consultant, and also Betty Okero. Betty Okero is a civil society leader and also a women rights defender. And I believe through her takes here, you actually now know what sort of guest I had. I want to believe this has been an impactful discussion. That's why we put a mark on it on the Western Spectrum segment this morning. We'll do this again next Monday. But for now, we end it there. My name is Wycliffe Okech. We want to take a very short break.